Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tapestry of Connection. I'm your host, Gina Francis, and today I am thrilled to welcome author Lesley M. Kaye from the UK. She channels, and so we're going to talk about channeling. She channels the written word, she channels healing energies, and she's a fantastic, fun lady that I'm just thrilled to know. And so I wanted to introduce her to all of you, and then we can have a little conversation about channeling. So welcome, Lesley.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me, and hello.
I usually like to start with my guests to ask sort of how you first came to know you had this ability. So for you, it's channeling. So do you have a first memory of when you first channeled or how you got into this?
Okay, so my very first memory that stands out, there were perhaps other instances, but I don't really remember them. So my very first memory was in middle school, and it was a school assembly. We'd often have them, and they were always quite strict occasions. We all had to sit in silence and sit still. And I remember the head teacher was on the school stage. We were in the school hall, and he was on the stage, and he was talking about something. I can't remember what. And I heard this voice say to me, "Don't listen to him. Don't listen to him." And I can't remember my reaction, but I'm sure I would have been puzzled as to who said that when everyone was sitting absolutely still and there was complete silence apart from the head teacher speaking. So that was my very first memory of channeling, and perhaps there were other occasions, but none stood out like that one. Fast forward many years to young adulthood, and lines of poetry started to arrive. I'd just hear the lines and then I'd write them. That phase lasted on and off for many years. It wasn't very intense, but that would be my poetry phase. We fast forward because then I became a mother and life gets hectic. My next experience was going to a channeling weekend to meet our spirit guides. So it was about a 4-hour journey. There was this little road that went down to a roundabout, and there were trees, and it was quiet, and I felt like I was going home. I had never been to this part of England before, but somehow it felt like I was going home. So perhaps I'd lived in Wiltshire, that part of the country, in a previous life, or perhaps it was the fact that I was going to a channeling event. So that for me was channeling. I'd done all the preparation, done the weekend, and it was great. That was it. It was like I put it in a box, ticked it off, done and dusted. Moving forwards, I don't know how many years now, I went on a writing retreat. We're still with the poetry at this point, and I remembered we were small. There was a small group of us in a distant location, so our phones didn't work unless we sort of walked 5 minutes up the hill to another place. Our phones didn't work, internet wasn't prolific, and I'd noticed one of the tutors' T-shirts had all these symbols on. And I remember thinking, so I wonder if those symbols mean something to someone who can read them. And then I started thinking about how we can decipher symbols, because at the end of the day, writing is a set of symbols, no matter what the language, it's symbols. And that was about the extent of my thoughts on the matter. Anyway, the next morning I got up and went for a shower. And while I was in the shower, these words started to appear. They seemed like I downloaded it. Lines of poetry kept coming, kept coming. It wasn't a super long poem. And after the shower, I typed it all up, and there was a poem completed that I took to shower and then type it up. I don't know, maybe half an hour, 40 minutes at the most. And I never understood what was happening. I'd always said, I don't know, It's like I downloaded it. Well, in effect, I had because I'd channeled it. So it's still, you know, I
Yeah.
still didn't connect all the dots.
Yes.
So we fast forward another few years now, and I bought a book, joined the group. I kept hearing about journaling. Journaling. Journaling is good for you. The benefits of journaling. So I thought, right, this is perhaps now October, November 2019. I thought, right, in the new year, I shall start a journal because it's good for you. So I sat down to journal and I wrote the question that I heard is good, which is, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Wrote the date, wrote my question, and then wrote the answer I heard.
Mm-hmm.
And the penny still hasn't dropped. This for me wasn't unusual. It wasn't unique. This is what happened. You write a question, you hear the answer, and you write the answer, and that was it. That's what happened. Sometimes in life, it's only comparison that shows that what we do isn't what everyone else does. So I accidentally wrote a book in some way.
Accidentally.
Yeah, it just happened. Just happened. And I still can't remember the moment I realized that what I was doing was called channeling. For me, channeling was my weekend away. I'd done that, but this wasn't channeling. It's just the way it worked. So I'd say, really, I stumbled onto realizing.
It's interesting because a lot of creatives and a lot of people who write or music and things like that, a lot of times they will describe an experience like you're talking about, where just all of a sudden the words came and they, you hear these stories about how they go into a studio and the whole album's written in like 2 or 3 days. And I'm always thinking, that's so interesting. And I often wonder, do they realize where they're getting all this beautiful poetry is what it is when you're writing a song, and because it's hard to explain. I mean, yes, we use our imagination and everything else, but you can tell when it's just flooding in. It's a different kind of thing. You're not having to think about it. And like you, that usually happens to me in the shower. When I'm in the shower, then my best creative ideas or writing ideas will come. And I've heard that that's a common thing. And I wonder if it's maybe the connection to water, or if it's just that we get our mind out of the way because it's calming, it's relaxing, and then it creates that space for the dial to be turned to the correct channel, right?
Yes. Yeah, pardon the pun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also perhaps because it's not like, oh, what have I got to do? What time is it? Where have I got to go? Where have I got to be? No, you're in the shower, you're not going anywhere. And there is, like you say, that moment of calm where things start to shift frequency.
And so, just for people who might be listening who might be confused about what channeling is, do you want to sort of give us your sort of definition of what is channeling, just for people brand new to this?
Sure. So I did talks on channeling, and I thought one way to really talk about channeling is to first have a definition so that we're all on the same page. So the definition I use is the Merriam-Webster dictionary, who defines channeling as a person who conveys thoughts or energy from a source believed to be outside the person's body or conscious mind, specifically one who speaks for non-physical beings or spirits. Like you were saying with the shower, it's like the information comes down. And it's also, channeling comes in different forms. There's verbal, there's musical, there's art, there's healing. Now, a lot of people accept Reiki. What does the Reiki practitioner do? They generally flow energy through them and then pass it on to the person that they are treating. And for me, that is a form of channeling.
I would agree because I do Reiki, and the thing is, You prepare yourself, because a lot of people think, oh, you're just doing it. No, there's a whole process where you prepare with meditation and you're getting your vibration correct. And then the whole job of the Reiki person is to get themselves out of the way. I'll say, I surrender and I allow. I surrender and I allow. And then, usually it just starts flowing. And the more I trust it, the more it comes.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing to be in that space, I think.
Yes, agreed, agreed. And that for me is a classic example of channeling. So there are many forms of channeling, and a lot of people channel, but they just perhaps don't define their light bulb moments.
Certain religious people also, and whatever your religion, but they will say, oh, and I got a message that I should do this. Well, they're channeling from the divine. I mean, they may not realize that they're channeling, but that's a form of channeling as well. And we may not just label it like that, right? I mean, it's obvious that there's some kind of connection that brings in some answers or some choices that should be made. And then they say, and then I did that and everything just fell into place, right?
Yeah, yeah. Everything went smoothly after that. Yes, agreed. And of course, I mean, speaking in tongues has been accepted for a long, long time. And that is another form of channeling. So I think there are lots of forms of channeling that we accept, but perhaps haven't labeled as channeling. Speaking tongues, Reiki healing, people being in the zone, like the musicians, and artists.
And so when did you first start, and we'll get to your books because I'm fascinated by your books, but you also do healing channeling. So when did you first realize that you could do that, or that you wanted to do that, or that you were led to do that?
Okay, so we're going back a good few years now. I actually joined a dream group, and we were discussing dreams. Now, dreams are actually very, very interesting, and they can give us a huge amount of information. On this particular day, in this session, the lady leading the group asked us to rub our hands together and then slowly move them apart. And it's like, what can you feel? And I could feel the energy. And this for me was a major, major revelation. So I started to play a little bit with energy. And then we fast forward. Many of my experience seemed to be a little disjointed. Fast forward several years, and I got back into this sensation of feeling energies. I did Reiki, but I've never healed with Reiki. I feel that you can feel the energy, a person's energy. You can just feel it, and you can even pick up past injuries. And sometimes you can see, I've had various visions with people. So they're like X-ray pictures that I sometimes get, not that often. So I've always felt that you can actually move the energy. Perhaps you can feel where it's hot, and then just you can move the energy. And if it's something internal, let's say like a growth or a tumor, I feel like I need to pull threads of energy out of it. And if it's something like a tumor, you can put it in a ball of energy, loving energy.
I've been working on someone, and it still makes me think, Lesley, that I'm losing my mind sometimes, honestly, because I'll be working on somebody Reiki wise and I'll see, oh, you should take, like I remember this one lady, you should sew this part around her knee is weak. So you need to take the energy and sew it around to strengthen her knee. Now, I don't know why I hear that. I do it. And then the lady tells me, oh, yeah, I had severed tendon there that, for the longest time gave me trouble and it's been hurting lately. And it's
Yeah.
like, how could I get that if I wasn't getting the energy from somewhere else? I mean, I don't know to do that,
No.
but it appears in my mind, and then I do it, and then the feedback I get is, yes, that's correct. So have you had those experiences too?
Yes, I have. Especially like I know there was one lady And they'd been to see consultants, well-respected consultants. She wanted children, and they'd been to see respected consultants, and they all said the same. No way, it's not going to happen. So I did some healing on her, and about a day later, I saw a black spot on her back. Not a physical one. In my mind's eye, I could see a black spot on this lady's back. So I moved the energy, cleansed the aura, smoothed it over again. And she stopped having children after number 3. So this goes from you'll never have children to I now have 3 children. My mother had had a big operation, and I was staying with her while she recovered. And I just kept thinking about Durham Cathedral. Then you get on with things, but the idea kept coming back. Now, Durham Cathedral in England homes St. Cuthbert, who was a medieval healer. He was well renowned as a healer. Durham Cathedral kept presenting itself. So in the end, I said to my mother, look, I keep thinking about going to Durham Cathedral because that's where St. Cuthbert's buried. Now, my mother was not into angels or anything like this, energies. No. We went to Durham Cathedral, and it's a biggish tomb area. We were sat at the end in silence, me and my mother, and after a while, I felt like there was someone stood in front of me. I had my eyes closed, so I opened them. There was no one there, but I could feel there was someone standing in front of me. So I thought, okay, I hope that this has been what our journey was about. After we'd sort of sat for a little bit, we moved, and my mother said to me, she said, it's strange. It's like I felt someone standing in front of me. And I thought, no, that is very interesting because for a lady who doesn't believe any of this stuff, to feel I am certain that St. Cuthbert's came to meet and greet both of us. And yeah,
Extraordinary.
yes.
So going back to your passion, channeling the written word, what can you tell us about anything you want to share from that experience or from your books?
I would love to share from my books. May I show you?
Yes, of course. Of course.
So, Diary of a Scribe to the Universe was the book I accidentally wrote. It was 5 months of bliss. It's totally unexpected. I never, ever wanted it to end. I just loved it so much. I can't tell you. It's like when you hug someone you love, it's that sort of warmth, that feeling of being cocooned in love. It was like that. I never wanted to finish scribing. That's how it was called, scribing, with Yahweh. And accidental though it was beautiful. And I think I learnt a lot. May I read some of my favorite bits? They're only short.
Yeah. Sure, of course.
So I would write my question and then I would write the answer. It was still like, I want to understand all of this. Who are you? Who am I? Why are we here? And this was the question I asked. Why are we here? And the answer was, why? Why indeed? Like the seed asks the flower, why? Does the air ask the wind, why? It is so, and all beings are, just are. Like the waterfall that plunges and thunders in its power, it is. We are, just we are. And then let's embrace the beauty, feel the joy, live and breathe and know there is a purpose to you, your life, and beyond.
That's beautiful, Lesley.
Thank you. And there was another one this particular morning. I've decided to try writing in the morning when it is quieter. Perhaps we can talk better that way. And the answer In stillness come great deeds, not in the doing or the frantic rushing you call life and living. To breathe and not do is enough. Sparkles of wonder, clouds of glory, and rainbows of love are life. The spring green of the unfolding leaf has and holds the gems of new life. Behold and wonder as it all unfolds and reveals itself.
That's beautiful.
So I'd been writing my questions and answers for a couple of weeks, and then I got this sudden urge to clear the house. Everything that wasn't being used, everything that was just sitting there, get rid, get rid, get rid. And that was the sentiment, and that was nothing like me, because I don't like to just keep changing stuff. Yeah, it's good, but it's not my way. If anything, it was the opposite. Hang on to it. Hold on to it. It may be useful one day, or can't get rid of that. It was a present. The things, the possessions just keep growing, and you can't seem to move them on. But after a couple of weeks, possessions had changed in my mind to stuff. Stuff. Move it, move it, move it. And it was like I had to wipe the slate clean and move everything out that I didn't need. And then after a couple of weeks, I started again with the messages.
That's something I have heard frequently and also experienced. As we say, everything is energy. We are energy. The chair that we're sitting in is energy. It's just, is it denser or lighter, and how it moves in space. So all of that stuff, by moving the stuff, you clear an energy channel. I think that's really important, because we don't realize that maybe sometimes stuff or things are weighing us down, keeping us from the connection. And I've heard a lot of people in our line of work, when they clear things out, then it's another level comes in.
And also, I couldn't believe I felt physically lighter. Having cleared things out, I felt physically lighter, like I'd lost weight. Well, I suppose in some ways I had lost weight through all my stuff.
Yeah. And your channeled message, I think, is beautiful. And I think that, to me, is something that I have learned as I have gotten older in life, is there's a statement like, you are where your feet are, right? You are where your feet are. You're not 10 miles down the road. You're here. And the job is to learn to be present in the moment, enjoy the moment, be. Actually just being is probably one of the hardest things. It's like, I want to go faster, 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 do more, do more. And I feel like sometimes through that, there's a loss of connection to self, and there's a loss of connection to being in the moment. And that's where the beauty is. So I totally relate to your message there.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's the same all over. As the internet increases, AI increases, the use of AI, and social media, it's like it pulls you in so many different ways. And at times it feels like an information overload. It can just take over because, oh, I need that. I could be doing this. I should be learning about that. I need to reply to, I need to do this. And it's do all the time. Yeah. Mental clutter.
Yeah. We've had conversations about labels and what they represent, and that oftentimes, especially in our work, there's lots of negative labels attached to what we do, and the labels can then bring a connotation depending on what the label is. So I know that's something you're very interested in, working on changing.
Yes. One of my all-time favorite quotes is from Henry David Thoreau, who stated, "It's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see." And I was thinking about how channeling, psychic work, spiritual practices can sort of drift over to what people may consider woo-woo, but it depends on the situation. This line between being accepted and it being a bit out there, a bit woo-woo, is quite transient. And it depends, I think it depends on the situation. So, for example, if a religious leader in a religious setting talks about angels and communing with angels, that's okay. That's the way it is. But if someone says, oh, great weekend planned, I'm going to an angel conference and I want to learn to talk to angels. Similar ideas, one will be accepted and one might be a bit out there. That we're getting woo-woo there. Or what about Olympic athletes often train physically, but before events, they've done the physical training. The next part is the mental part where they go through, for example, let's say it's skiing, they go through all the movements, they go through the course mentally, and they are preparing themselves for the event. And that is okay. That is the way it goes. But if that period of mental preparation, which is visualization, were interpreted as visualization, oh, isn't that cosmic ordering or manifestation? Well, hang on, we put a different label on it, and again, we've moved it to that area. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Whereas most people accept that athletes in preparation use these techniques. So yeah, there are so many examples, expressions we use. I got goosebumps. What's that about? Someone says something, situation occurs, and someone says, oh, I've got goosebumps. What is happening there? We don't know necessarily, but that's accepted. It's accepted that people can go into a building, a room, and they feel instantly at home. That's okay. That's accepted. They can go into a building or a room and not feel at ease and want to leave, and that is accepted. But if someone were to say, all buildings are energy and they will absorb the predominant energy in that space, if you go into that space, you could start feeling the vibrations, those sensations, what the building has stored. And suddenly it's like, what? What are you talking about? So I think there are things we accept, that's just the way it is. And things that perhaps if they're labeled differently, talked about slightly differently, that sort of go into, that's a bit out there, isn't it? It's a bit woo-woo.
Yeah, that brings to mind, I grew up Methodist and Protestant faith, and there was this thing called Guidepost. It was a little monthly booklet that had different things in it, different writings from people, scripture. But there was always a part of it called In His Mysterious Ways, and it would be where people could submit their stories of the unexplained and the synchronicities and how you literally can't explain whatever happened and it's God's influence on you. And that was always my favorite part of the thing, which obviously why not? But I find that that's accepted, right? If it's God arranged this for you.
Yeah.
I believe it's all the same and I believe that power exists, but I don't necessarily think it has to be labeled. And I think that's the thing you're talking about is everybody can attach a different label to it, but it's all the same divine presence coming through. Now that's controversial to say that,
Yeah.
but the longer I live and the more like in my life, I was a journalist and I traveled to different countries, different religions, different cultures. And you would find this similarities through all the cultures and the connection to the divine. They just
Yes.
called it different names. And so I also, like you, have a hope that as we understand things more and open ourselves up spiritually more, that perhaps we can start finding our similarities and not our differences.
Yeah. And that would make such a huge difference, because in finding our similarities, we're connecting. And when there's connection, there's cohesion. Whereas finding the differences, it's divisive. It is a divisive way of looking at things. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And the labels. And also, I think our worldview, things are changing, like you were saying about health systems accepting Reiki. Our worldviews are changing, perhaps not as quickly as some of us would like. But if we think back a few centuries, people believed and knew that the earth was flat, and they knew that the sun went around the earth. And all of their knowledge, their guidance came from one source, religion. So, yeah, I think our worldviews are formed with threads from the past still, but also changing.
During those times, people were put to death, for believing otherwise. But I find it fascinating because my whole goal in life has been to understand, to foster understanding, to learn. And so I
Yeah.
feel in this field, it's a beautiful thing to get to learn how everyone connects differently to that source. It's just the way you go to that source.
Yeah. Variations, isn't it?
Yeah.
Variations on a note. Yeah. It's like saying, taking an orchestra who can play, actually, and this works in nicely with our talk on connection, who all play as a cohesive unit. And no one ever says, oh, let's take the violins out. They don't strike the right note ever. We'll take them out and then expect it all to work perfectly. I think there are lots of different approaches, and it's good to, like you say, understand the different approaches and understand the different ways. Yeah.
Yeah, because I find that people often fear what they don't know,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
fear of the something is usually worse than the actual something. I think if you go within and realize sometimes that fear is because it's unknown, if you get yourself past that little bit and walk through that fear, you open yourself up to a much more beautiful world,
Yeah.
if you just trust.
New job, somewhere else to live, somewhere else to study. Oh, I don't know about this. Often the anticipation is, oh, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. Perhaps that's the mind trying to keep us safe. Don't do
Mhm,
that. No, no, no. You're better off where you are. It's
mhm.
nice and safe and comfortable here.
Exactly. Some more about your writing. So you've got several books now. Do you want to share with us any others or any inspiration you had from your guide?
Yes, I'd love to read. So when I was writing, and I mean physically writing, Diary of a Scribe to the Universe, I filled like 3 notebooks because I wrote it all out by hand. So because it was such a beautiful, beautiful experience, once the book was finished and finally published, I thought, right, let's do another one. So I bought myself a huge notebook. I thought, right, we'll just use one notebook this time for the next book. And it's filled with beautiful, beautiful messages, but not my second book, which came with a group meditation. And I saw the earth and I saw these comet-like energies around the earth. And they were the second book. They were the energies of the second book, Council of Light and Love, this one here. So
Being your light, how to shine
in
in
dark times,
times. Well, that's appropriate, isn't it?
yeah. So this one was a totally different experience. I went away to start the book. I'd had a few messages with them in the past with the Council of Light and Love. And I went away and had a few days and got a lot written that way. Totally different energy, quite strong. quite powerful. This is it's much more of a practical book. It's beautiful, but it explains things in a more practical way. And also, talking of channeling, so when I get the messages, I often get images as well. I did include some of the images I saw in the book.
Do you think all people are able to channel? Do you think if people are willing that the channel opens? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I think most of us do channel in different situations. And I think, like we were saying earlier about labels, there are a lot of situations that are just accepted with that's the way it is, that's the way it happens. I was thinking about television programs. I think you probably have something similar in America where people wanting to buy a new home, go and look at different properties.
Mhm.
Now, frequently, if it's a couple, it's often the woman will say, I like this house. I can see us living here. Okay. And invariably, if everything else is correct, that will be the house they buy. But when that person says, I like this house, I can see us living there, it's like, have they channeled? Have they suddenly become psychic? What has happened in that brief window of time? They like that house. That person can see themselves living there, and that's the way it is. But I think there are a lot of instances where people do tune in. There are a lot of situations we can't explain. You feel at home with someone, you feel at home in a place. You feel at home with a person you haven't known long, and they feel like they've always been in your life. There are people that you don't like for whatever reason, and you can't necessarily, even sometimes before they've opened their mouth, you look at them and think, you're bad news. You are bad news. So I think there are lots of situations where people do channel, where people do pick up on energy. It might be in slightly different ways, but I think, yeah, we all have gifts that we aren't necessarily aware of. Yeah.
And I totally agree with that. I would often feel in the building that I worked in, like the heaviness of other energies, because, in news, there's a lot of intensity and there's a lot of death and destruction and all kinds of stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I'd oftentimes go into the office and feel one way and leave feeling completely drained or completely, finished. And I could often, sometimes I would all of a sudden out of the blue have a headache that I didn't have. And it turns out I was picking up on other people's feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the most extreme examples of this was we were on holiday and we'd gone to visit. It was only a tiny little courtroom, and they'd set up an exhibition about a woman who'd been tried for murder and was later hanged. So we'd been in there, gone in fine, perhaps about 15 minutes later, I can't remember exactly how long, I had to leave because I felt physically sick. So you go in fine, you have to leave because it's like, physically, I can't do it in there. Yeah. So, yes. Yeah.
And so I think it's important when people start waking up to this and realizing, that there are tools that you can use to ground your energy, to shield your energy. And, maybe you're using your imagination, and maybe you can just say, okay, if you still don't believe in it, just use your imagination before you go out your door in the day and just say, I imagine that there's a little bubble of light around me, even if it's just that, can help. And I find it funny that they actually have labeled empathicness as there's actually a medical term that they use for it to describe it as kind of like a disorder. I can't remember what the name of the thing is, but it makes me laugh. Like when you can feel other people's feelings and things. I'm like, really? It's like, but then I have to realize, they have to make it fit in their box and they have to put it in their box. And so, okay, but I found it so funny one day when I came across that and was like, no, that's just somebody who's an empath.
Yeah.
There's
You know, and perhaps more overtly picking up energies than
Mhm.
a lot of other people who are doing it but don't understand what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
And different people, I find their clairs come, like, some people are born clairvoyant, some people are born clairaudient. I mean, you're born with all of it, but the more developed skill that comes in first. And I think for empaths, it's usually clairsentience, right? It's this feeling in your body. So that might
Yeah.
be the strongest one for empathic people. And for channeling, it might be clairaudience. It might be,
Yes.
So it's also important to realize it's not a one size fits all. We're all different. We all show up here, in our
Well,
little people suits, our souls zipped up in the people suit to experience life, and we're going to experience it differently. But I would just encourage anyone that's listening that Lesley's books can be a good start to
yeah.
get some messages from the other side.
I've channeled 2 books and also created a book of quotes from
Hmm.
Diary of a Scribe to the Universe because I love the language so much. So these can be used as journals or just colouring, whatever you like. Quote a day. And I also created some notebooks with an introduction on channeling. I would say, for me, I mean, I've always loved music. I've always loved languages. So I think the sounds are important in my life. But maybe there are people who are visual or yeah, so I created some notebooks for people to start writing their own messages. I think with channeling, like you were saying, I just see myself in a bubble, a large bubble that goes under my feet. That is a safe space to start channeling. Because once I think, a little bit of housekeeping is a good idea. It's love. You're connecting with love. You're connecting with wisdom, timeless wisdom. What
Yeah,
could be?
and I think if you just set the intention, I mean, and people do now know about intentions and manifesting, but if you set the intention before you do this, only light and love can come in my energy field. I only allow the light and love are for the greatest and highest good to come into my energy field. It's as simple as that if there's a fear there. It's
Yes.
funny, it makes me think of this. When I was in college, I went to a metaphysical bookstore for the first time and I picked up a book called Opening to Channel. And I didn't know what it was. And so I opened it, started reading, and I saw that it was a channeled book. Oren by Sanaya Roman or something was the book. And I opened it and started reading it. And then I slammed it shut and threw it in the closet and didn't use it because I was afraid. Right? Like I was afraid, like, oh, that's something I shouldn't be messing with over there. No,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. And it probably took me 20 years or more. And then I'm in a bookstore and I saw that book again. And I'm like, okay, this time I'm buying it and I'm reading it. And so it finds you when it finds you, but I wasn't ready in the beginning.
And yeah, when the time's right, it will happen.
Is there anything else that you want to share?
I would love to share one of the very first messages in what I thought would be my second channel book. It felt like it had to be written in purple and have a large border around it, almost like a picture special, a title page. And it goes, and so it is, and so it was, and so it always has been. Let it be so. Let it be so. Let life meander along its course and marvel at all it has to show you, to offer you. Delight in each new discovery along your way and know that all is well, all is truly well. In light and love we leave you. May joy be your compass this day and every day, and may love be your companion, your constant companion. Amen.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I could feel myself calming down as I heard you read, and you have that lovely voice. You should do radio, Lesley. You've got the beautiful, beautiful lilt to your voice. I've so enjoyed talking to you and learning a little bit more about your books and how you work. And I just, for anybody that would like to find Lesley or find her books, Lesley, do you want to share with them where they can find you?
Yeah, all my books are on Amazon under the writer name Lesley, Lesley. It's the English spelling of Lesley. Lesley M. Kaye, Kaye. So we've got Diary of a Scribe to the Universe and Being Your Light. There we go. And then On This Day of Days, which is book of quotes full of sacred geometry. And we had a font feast. I think there are 12 different fonts in it. Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm so glad to know you and to be able to connect with you on this journey. So everybody, it's author Lesley M. Kaye, and she's a phenomenal person. And so thank you, Lesley.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being with us. And if you can, drop a like, follow, or share this podcast. If you need to get in touch with me, you can do so at spirituallightwisdom.com. Remember, we're all connected, and these are just some of the stories that weave us together. For the Tapestry of Connection, I'm Gina Francis. Until next time.